The World of the Dead. Dark Truths Behind Over the Garden Wall. By Cloudy November. Do you believe that cartoons are meant only for children? Whenever the artwork over the garden wall is mentioned, most people's attention turns toward just one angle: the mystery, the secrets, and the theories surrounding the terrifying world of the unknown. However, very few pay attention to another side, a side that can be described as profoundly realistic, yet wrapped in a charming, fantasy-like character. The story is much deeper than a mere tale about two children lost in a magical forest, or an adventure to find the way back home. In its essence, it is a mirror reflecting our deepest human struggles, our excessive anxiety, our psychological fragility, our pathological attachment to the past, and our continuous confrontation with the beast that grows inside us whenever we surrender to despair. Do you believe that cartoons are meant only for children? If you think that the cartoon Over the Garden Wall is just a cute adventure of two brothers lost in the woods, you have fallen into the greatest visual trap ever created in the history of animation. Behind the warm autumn colors and the charming, classic art style hides one of the most complex masterpieces that discuss the traumas of the human psyche and revive the greatest literary epics and philosophical myths. This work is not for children. Rather, it is a mirror for everyone who has ever felt lost, for every mind consumed by anxiety, and for every soul trying to survive its past. The unknown as a purgatory for souls, Dante's symbolism. What if Wirt and Greg were on a terrifying journey inside Dante's Inferno? The forest of the unknown is not a place on a map, but a brilliant literary embodiment of purgatory, from Dante Alighieri's epic poem, The Divine Comedy. In the beginning, the two brothers almost drowned, only to find themselves suddenly transported into a foggy forest, precisely how Dante began his journey in the dark woods as a state of transition between life and death. Even the bird guiding them bears the name Beatrice, the exact same name as Dante's guide who led him toward the light. This existential wandering manifests in its most poignant form in the opening, song's Arabic version, which summarizes the concept of purgatory by saying, "Behind the fog, under the moonlight, everything that was lost has appeared. Our sorrows have faded like the echo of spring. But where have we arrived, and where is our destiny?" The forest here is a state of psychological testing. It is where souls are examined and face their sins before being judged to either return to life or fall into death. The psychology of anxiety and the defeat of stoicism. Wirt is no ordinary teenager. He is us when overthinking swallows us whole. The character of Wirt is an accurate psychological personification of overthinking and emotional fragility. Wirt lives imprisoned inside his own mind, analyzing every potential catastrophe and allowing his fear of how others perceive him to completely paralyze his actions. If we look at him through the lens of Stoic philosophy, we find that Wirt is the ultimate example of why we are miserable. He ties his survival to things entirely outside of his control. Throughout the journey, we see how his excessive self-awareness and complex thinking are the real traps that plunge him into disaster. Wirt represents that part of us which believes fear will protect us, while in reality, fear is exactly what makes us get more lost in the darkness of the forest. The beast, embodiment of the Jungian shadow. The beast in the story was not evil. It was a literal reflection of the despair within us. The beast is not a conventional monster with fangs and claws. It is far deeper than that. It is the perfect embodiment of the concept of the shadow in Carly. Jung's analytical psychology, that dark, repressed and despairing side of the human psyche. The beast does not kill its victims. Instead, it feeds on one thing only, their loss of hope. It waits patiently in the darkness until anxiety exhausts you and you stop trying. When despair creeps into Wirt's heart, tree roots gradually begin to grow around him. The beast represents that faint voice in our heads that whispers, during our worst days, "There is no use in resisting. Surrender to the darkness, rest here." The Edelwood trees in Ovid's myth of metamorphosis. The Edelwood trees hide a terrifying secret about depression and stagnation. The most shocking moment in the story is the realization that the Edelwood trees, from which the oil is extracted, are nothing but the bodies of the lost souls, who surrendered to the beast, despair. This symbolism is clearly adapted from classical mythology, specifically the epic poem Metamorphoses by the Roman poet Ovid, where humans transform into trees as a punishment or as a way to escape unbearable pain. Psychologically, turning into a tree represents the state of total paralysis that engulfs a patient with severe depression. When you lose your purpose, your body stiffens, you lose your free will, and you become mere fuel, feeding the monster of sadness that dwells deep within you. The woodsman and the tragedy of denial. The lantern is not a source of light. It is the prison where we lock away our past. The character of the woodsman is a brutal and painful case study of the denial stage in the psychology of loss and the stages of grief. The beast manipulated the woodsman's mind and convinced him that his daughter's soul lived inside the lantern, and that he was forced to cut down the souls of others, the trees, to keep the flame alive. Philosophically, the lantern here represents a pathological attachment to the past and a refusal to accept loss. The woodsman sacrifices his inner peace and his humanity to feed an illusion. The lesson here is agonizing. Blindly clinging to the past will not bring back those you have lost. It will only make you a slave to your grief, carrying a heavy burden in a forest that knows no light. Greg's absurdism and the defeat of darkness. How could a child with a frog defeat the greatest philosophical monster? In the end, what conquered the beast was not physical strength, but awareness and acceptance. Wirt realized the trick. But the true secret to survival was embodied in the child, Greg. Greg is the purest representative of Albert Camus' philosophy of absurdism. In a terrifying, incomprehensible, and dark world, Greg simply decides to sing, play, and make up songs about potatoes. He did not try to understand the complexity of the forest, nor did he allow anxiety to paralyze him. While Wirt was drowning in analysis, Greg was practicing life. His innocence and his nonchalant acceptance of the absurd reality were the strongest shield against despair. Sometimes, surviving the darkness of life does not require complex analysis. It requires the courage to smile for a moment and truly live in the moment in the face of the absurd.